yadyeva karna vivarena guham gato nah pitranuvarnitaraha bhavad udbhavena kumarochu yontarito ridigato piduratmanam tvam sodyeva no nayana moolam anantaradha yaryeva karna vivarena guham gato nah pitranuvarnitaraha bhavad udbhavena. Vaishnavas. Kumaruchu Taraito katikoto piduratmanam tvam Anantaradha Yeva karna vivarena gaham gatona Pitranuvarnitaraha bhavad udbhavena Kumaruchu Yontarito ridigato piduratmanam tvam yadyeva karna vivarena guham gatona pitranuvarnitaraha bhavadudbhavena. Last one. Kumaruchu yontnantar yedigato piduratmanam tvam sodyeva no nayana moolam anantarada yaryeva karna vivarena guham gatona pitranuvarnitaraha bhavarudbhavena. Very nice, Prabhu. Anyone else? Since we have no. Kumaruchu Yontariti koto manam tvam sodyeva no nayana moolam anantarada yaryeva karna vivarena guham gatona pitranuvarnitaraha bhavadudbhavena. Last takers? Okay. Hare Krishna. Word for word. Kumara Uchu. The Kumara said, Yaha, he who, Antarita, not manifested, Riddhi, in the heart, Gata, is seated, Api, even though, Duratmanam, to the rascals, Tvam, you, Saha, he, Adya, today, Eva, certainly, Naha, of us, Nayana Moolam, face to face, Ananta, O unlimited one, Radhaha, attained, Yarhi, when, Eva, certainly, Karna Vivarena, through the years, Guham, intelligence, Gatha, have attained, Na, our, Pitra, by our father, Anuvarnita, described. Raha, mysteries. Bhavat udbhavena, by your appearance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Kumara said, Our dear Lord, you were not manifested to the rascals, even though you are seated within the heart of everyone. But as far as we are concerned, we see you face to face, although you are unlimited. The statements we have heard about you from our father, Brahma, through the ears have now actually been realized by your kind appearance. Purport. The so-called yogis who concentrate their minds and meditate upon the impersonal or void are described here. This verse of Srimad Bhagavatam describes... Give me 1 second, everything's falling apart. This verse of Srimad Bhagavatam describes persons who are expected to be very expert yogis, engaged in meditation, but who do not find the Supreme Personality of Godhead seated within their heart. These persons are described here as intelligent, as duratma, which means a person who has a very crooked heart, or a less intelligent person, just opposed to a mahatma, which means one who has a broad heart. Those so-called yogis who, although engaged in meditation, are not broad-hearted, cannot find the four-handed Narayana form, even though he is seated within the heart. Although the first realization of the Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal Brahman, one should not remain satisfied with experiencing the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Lord. In the Ishopanishad also, the devotee prays that the glaring effulgence of Brahman may be removed from his eyes so that he can see the real personal feature of the Lord and thus satisfy himself fully. Similarly, although the Lord is not visible in the beginning because of his glaring bodily effulgence, if a devotee sincerely wants to see him, the Lord is revealed to him. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord cannot be seen by our imperfect eyes, he cannot be heard by our imperfect ears, and he cannot be experienced by our imperfect senses. But if one engages in devotional service with faith and devotion, then God reveals himself. Here, the four sages, Sanat Kumara, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanaka, are described as actually sincere devotees. Although they had heard from their father, Brahma, about the personal feature of the Lord, only the impersonal feature, Brahman, was revealed to them. But because they were sincerely searching for the Lord, they finally saw his personal feature directly, which corresponded to the description given by their father. They thus become fully satisfied. Here, they express their gratitude, because although they were foolish impersonalists in the beginning, by the grace of the Lord, they could now have the good fortune to see his personal feature. Another significant aspect of this verse is that the sages describe their experience of hearing from their father, Brahma, who was born of the Lord directly. In other words, the disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, and from Brahma to Narada, and from Narada to Vyasa, and so on, is accepted here. Because the Kumaras were sons of Brahma, they had the opportunity to learn Vedic knowledge from the disciplic succession of Brahma, and therefore, in spite of their impersonalist beginnings, they become, in the end, direct seers of the personal feature of the Lord. Translation again. The Kumara said, O dear Lord, our dear Lord, you are not manifested to rascals, even though you are seated within the heart of everyone. But as far as we are concerned, we see you face to face, although you are unlimited. The statements we have heard about you from our father, Brahma, through the ears have now actually been realized by your kind appearance. So, before I do the Mangalacharan, we'll hope to go through first the disciplic succession, and then I'll touch on why the Lord does not appear in the heart, based on Prabhupada's translation and his purport. And then we'll look to the importance of the personal conception in our lineage. And hopefully we'll look at some sweetness, and then we'll connect that back to the first point. And in that way, I hope it serves the Vaishnavas to go deeper in this verse. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, we have just heard the first words that the Kumaras have spoken to the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who has appeared before them in the 7th gate in Vaikuntha. After the 7th gate is Paravyoma, Vaikuntha, Dham. They've proceeded forward from the material world here, where they are born from the mind of Lord Brahma, Manasaputra, and they have been curious, been attempting to find the Supreme, and so they've proceeded forward through the gates, and by the arrangement of the Lord's Yogamaya potency, his internal potency, they've been allowed to enter through one gate, another gate, until they meet the two doorkeepers, Jay and Vijay, where this occurrence, this event occurs. And as that event takes a left turn in a curse which has been applied to the doorkeepers as a result of their offense, so-called offense of the Kumaras, the Lord appears on the spot in order to rectify the situation. And we hear in the verses preceding this, it's not only the Lord, it's His divine consort, Sri Lakshmi, and also all of the residents of Vaikuntha Dham have come to the gate to watch this event occurring. This is not simply an event between the Kumaras, Jay and Vijay, and the Lord, but an event which is being participated by all of the residents, all of the associates of the Lord. So there is a great importance. There is an enjoyment that is occurring in this event. They are witnessing the sweetness of the Lord, but they are also attempting to see what will the Lord do in this situation. What's going to happen? So it's quite an important section of verses. And here, the first thing that the Kumaras say, rather than we've just heard the beauty of the Lord, how the Lord looks, his large hips, his yellow garments, his paradya, his very exquisite and quite beautiful jewels, his makara kundala, his shark-shaped, alligator-shaped earrings, his Vaijayanti garland with the 5 different flowers. We've heard about his beauty. We've heard how the Kumaras looked at the face of the Lord as he approached them. They looked down at his feet to take it all, and then they returned to his face because they were so enamored. And the first thing that they utter, the first point, which is a very deep philosophical point they utter, is the importance of what they've heard and how that is being actually witnessed before them in the form of the Supreme Lord. We have heard this before, they say. We've heard that you are seated in the heart of everyone. We have heard that you are Ananta, the unlimited one, but here you are before us, face to face, Nayana Moolam. This is important. We've touched on. It's been touched on this throughout this chapter. Is the importance of hearing from our direct authorities, or those who have seen, those who are tattvadarshi, those who have seen the truth, and approaching through them and hearing through them. Shravanam. Krishna says, Tat Trinu, just listen about my glories, my pastimes, my appearance. Only by this process of hearing can we actually really understand the depths of the Lord, understand the relation we have with first of all, who we are, what is our relation to everyone else, and what is our relationship to the Lord, who is the Lord, what are his faculties, what are his characteristics, his opulences. They have commented that they've heard this before from Lord Brahma, who is their teacher, the first teacher, and they heard this. And they're sincere devotees, because when they first heard this from Lord Brahma, Prabhupada writes, they weren't satisfied. They just stayed in their impersonal conception. And so this hearing, once they've approached the Lord, this hearing has come into action. All of a sudden, what they've heard and what they may have missed from their first instance of hearing from their Guru, Lord Brahma, it's all of a sudden when the Lord is there, they remember all of the teachings that come back. That is the power of disciplic succession. That is the power of hearing. And that is why when we hear from authority, we should not be, initially at the start, and of course continuing, at least for me, when I hear from authority, from Guru, the Guru Varga, sometimes some points, they go over my head. They will completely miss us. Or we might focus on one point and there'll be so many other points. But at the right moment, because of the power of the Lord, because the instructions which the Tattvadarshis give to their disciples, it is pure. It is non-different from Krishna to speak about the Lord. It's completely non-different. The sound of the glorification of the Lord, the sound of His characteristics, His name itself, all of that is Krishna Himself. So the potency is right there. And that potency was activated as soon as they saw the Lord. And that was only possible through disciplic succession. It didn't happen of its own accord. And that's why it's the first thing they say to Lord Vishnu. We have heard this before. They're seeing based on what they've heard. We remember the Shrut Ikshita Pada, which Lord Brahma, in prayers to the Lord for creative impetus, in Canto 2, he says this Shruta Ikshita Pada, one who actually sees through hearing, the Lord actually comes and seats Himself within the heart of that person. With great faith hears. That's the power of hearing. The Lord comes and sits within the heart of that devotee. The Kumara's position as Mahajanas are herein justified as well, because they have followed the process of hearing and they've implemented it, and thus they are seeing the Lord has appeared directly there, and not just appeared there. The Lord, just like they've gone to Vrindavan with no real permission or permission slip from their parents or anything like that. They've just walked straight in. And there's gates in Vrindavan, and of course, let's not get into the point of why there are gates in Vrindavan, but they've gone through these gates, they've gone one after another, all of these defenses, they've gone through, no stopping, and they've gone right there and they've been stopped. And the beauty of the situation is, the Lord has come there and the aroma of the tulasi has gone through all of their defenses instead. It's not, they've tried to go that way, but the Lord has come this way to them. Because they are sincere devotees, because they've heard and they wanted to see the Lord. So that aroma of the tulasi, we have different defenses in our body. We have the skin, the hair, mucous membrane, our immune system. Now, this tulasi aroma is so powerful, so fragrant, so equivalent with the potency of the Lord that straight into the ear, and they are completely bewildered and completely taken aback with their own conception of what the divine is. It's not impersonal, it's personal. He's a person. This is the Supreme Lord. So, this Shruta Ikshita Pada, we should always keep that in mind. Whenever we hear is an opportunity to actually learn more about Krishna. I'm hearing about Krishna. A day that goes by with that hearing about the Supreme Lord, hearing about who we are, what is our position, what we must do, is another day where we actually don't allow the Lord to come sit in our hearts. So we should really, every day, every moment, we should be trying to listen all the time. But unfortunately, there are people whose heart the Lord does not come sit within, who the Lord does not manifest Himself to. And there are different words used here by Srila Prabhupada to describe, to get deeper into the actual characteristics of someone who the Lord does not manifest Himself to. So the word used here is duratmanam. And Prabhupada, the first definition Prabhupada gives is the rascals. the rascals. And this is a very Prabhupada definition of the word. Prabhupada would often call the scientists and the atheists, he would call them rascals. Or anyone who defies authority, he'd call them rascals. It's a very powerful word, rascal, to the rascals. You know, in English definition, rascal is like a little devil. They say like a little devil. One who doesn't follow authority. So that's one definition that's given here. In the purport, Prabhupada gives another one. What is it? He gives those who have a very crooked heart. Those who have a crooked heart, the Lord does not appear. Why? What is crooked? If we look at the crookedness, I mean the opposite of crookedness is straight. A straight line. Or aligned. They're aligned to what? They're aligned to the Supreme Lord and His desires. They're aligned to serving the Supreme Lord. They're aligned to the authorities, the acharyas, the great teachers. They are aligned. They are honest. We remember honesty is one of the... I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur... Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in speaking about qualities of a Brahmana, he says the foremost quality of a Brahmana is honesty. So when one is crooked, one has a crooked heart, one is unaligned to the Lord, unaligned to the teachings which are for our own interest, not straight in conduct, dishonest, deceptive, bad intentions. That's a crooked heart. That's what regular thinking of crooked heart is. So the premise of the crooked-heartedness, and this is one of the more important points that Prabhupada's mentioning in this purport here, this element of crookedness, where from it comes. What's the crookedness? What's the element of that crookedness? Because for those who are crooked, who are not aligned, who do not see what the authorities are saying, do not see around them what is occurring, why they're suffering so much, why they shouldn't be following their desires just to simply get something that everyone else has and is not happy anyway. Who doesn't take to any sort of practical purpose of understanding what their self is and who they should be serving, rather it's just serving the senses. That premise of that crooked heart is first... Because we think someone is crooked, we think they're deceiving others. No, first of all, they've deceived themselves. They've deceived themselves first. They've deceived themselves by permitting and being lax and allowing themselves to essentially partake in this material universe's delights, which are actually full of suffering. They've deceived themselves by allowing themselves to engage in a life without the Supreme, in a life of complete impersonalism, not just Brahmavadi impersonalism, but complete impersonalism. I'm the center of the universe. Everything revolves around me. How does this affect me? Me, mine, this. That's the side of crooked heart. And then what happens when they feel frustrated and someone else is doing something which is of use and they can see, they feel very angry and they go and deceive. They continue to deceive, crooked. So they start deceiving themselves first and then they deceive others. Dishonest. So the Lord doesn't appear in there, does not manifest Himself for the crooked heart. And then there's another, because Prabhupada mentions broad-hearted. There's also narrow-minded. It's another way. To those who are narrow-minded, who do not appreciate the full conception of what is occurring before them. Actually seeing the truth, seeing, hey, I'm struggling so much, I'm putting all this effort, I'm trying so hard, trying so hard for happiness. Little happiness comes, I enjoy it, it goes away, but the sadness, it comes by itself. What's going on here? These narrow-minded people. And this is in line with, in the last verse of this chapter, 50th text. The Kumaras say the same thing actually. The last word is that they say the same thing. They say that the Lord does not appear to those who are not intelligent. And the word used is their antamanam. So they start with that point and then they end with that point. Again, the disciplic succession point. What they hear, they're saying directly. So antamanam, those who are less intelligent. And so intelligent not in a bookish sense or intelligence in a logical sense, but intelligence in a understanding what is the self. That is intelligence. Buddhi. One who understands their position, who understands that they must serve Krishna, who hears, who understands that they don't have all the answers, they must go to an authority, just like they go to a university to hear lectures from someone who's studied all their life, or they hear from a sports person about how to bowl in a particular action because they've done it all their lives, so they will know. Same way, they don't have that intelligence to actually approach an authority. And in that verse, that last verse, Prabhupada says in the purport, for those who are less intelligent, those who have no control over the mind and senses, and who therefore speculate and want to become one with the Lord, such persons cannot have the pleasure of seeing the eternal form of the Lord. For the impersonalist and the so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yoga Maya. So there's an element of not understanding the self, but there's also the element of being an impersonalist. And both of them are actually one and the same. Because if one is an impersonalist, one actually doesn't understand their position. Because even the Brahmavadis, the pure Brahmavadis, they understand what their position. They're serving, but this is our relationship. This is my passive relationship with the Lord. Sayujya, Mukti, merging. But they understand that there are other conceptions such as Paramatma and Bhagavan. But the impersonalists, the rascal impersonalists, as Prabhupada is saying, the rascal impersonalists, they just believe Brahman is supreme and that's it, we must merge, that's it. We have no quality. The Lord has no form. He's speaking the Bhagavad, he's coming into the world in some fake body that's of no use. And Prabhupada says in that verse there, we continue to exist, all these kings, you, me, we continue to exist, we've existed before, we've continued. He says, he gives the 4 reasons, and one of the reasons is, what's the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita if the Lord has appeared in some man form that is not authoritative or is some fake gesture? What was the use of? No, the Lord is the same as his body. I'll continue on that point of personal conception shortly. So the Lord doesn't appear to these people, to Duratmanam, the rascals, those with crooked hearts, not intelligent. Why? Why would the Lord... We would think that those people actually are the ones who need the Supreme Lord's benediction. They actually need the grace. They need fortune. And the Lord is known to come with the goddess of fortune. He's known to be the most fortunate, most magnanimous. Why isn't he appearing for those people? One can ask, isn't that cruel? Completely not allowing them to come up in terms of their spiritual progression. As the Lord says, continually casting them down into the lowest forms of life. Why? Isn't that just cruel? The Lord isn't cruel. But actually, the Lord is just simply, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, sinful people want to fulfill their desires. They just want to fulfill their desires. That's why they continue to exist here. Because sarvasya chaham ridisha nivishto mata smritir jnanam apauhanam cha. The Lord fulfills that desire, and their desire is to forget the Lord. And that is by implication of the fact that they want to engage in their own sense gratification for their own happiness. If that occurs, they must forget the Lord. Because if they remember the Lord, they can't engage in sense gratification. They can't engage in these things truthfully and honestly as they want to. Because they'll know deep in their heart that there's something wrong with what's happening. This is not tasty. It's like getting cake and trying to eat it and it tastes like ashes. They'll continually to experience that. So to fulfill their desires, the Lord provides apolhanam, forgetfulness. So it's not that the Lord is being cruel. He's simply fulfilling their desires. I myself began Krishna consciousness, just over 10 years ago now. I participated here. I was chanting 16 rounds and really enjoyed the process. But after some time, for immature reasons, I obviously stopped practicing. Went on with my life, university life, and trying to enjoy out there, see what's there to enjoy. But with this knowledge that's provided you, nothing was satisfying, nothing was fruitful. Everything was always, like I said, that feeling of here's this happiness, I think this is good for me, and you taste it and it's just ashes. It's not fruitful, it's not satisfying. Because truthfully, the Lord knew deep down that once I knew the qualities, once I'd heard from the disciplic succession, once I'd heard all these things, there's no way I wanted to actually truly forget the Lord. So we didn't provide the apohanam. In fact, he chased me down. In many instances, I was sitting in Denmark in a Christmas feast, and the children were getting all these presents under the tree, and I sat down near the books, and I was just sitting near the books, and I was in another side of the world. I don't know what's going on. I just said, I'm looking at books. I was looking at different books to maybe titillate my intelligence, and then one book came out, 100 Hare Krishna vegetarian recipes. Little things here and there that Krishna would do to make sure the devotee comes back to him, that someone comes back, that they don't forget him. So that in one element, I'm not trying to blow gas or anything, but you can understand inside that there's a real desire within oneself to actually be united with the Supreme, to actually learn more and be honest, be sincere, as Prabhupada says. And that was, the Kumaras are similar. Although they reached a certain level of understanding, which was Brahman, based off their hearing, they wanted to learn more. So they proceeded forward, and they were provided that opportunity. So the Lord fulfilled their desire. So that leads us to this next section, which I wanted to spend some time on, which is the importance of the personal conception of the Supreme Lord. Because we see here that the Kumaras, they weren't satisfied with their understanding. Brahma, he knew it was personal conception, he knew that. But the Kumaras did not appreciate that at the time. And it's only the appearance of the Lord and his sweetness which captivated them and took them over to the personal conception of the Lord. Actually, if we recall, my Gurudev was saying the other day, actually, in our material existence, in our daily occurrences, actually, the reason why people are attracted to this impersonal conception, this impersonal divine, and this relationship with an impersonal is because in all of our personal relationships in this material world, they are all elements of suffering in them, of pain, been spurned, have been arguing, have been attacked, have been let down, betrayed. Because everyone is engaged in, I'll be your friend, but you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I will be in a relationship with you, but you must provide expectations. So because of all of these problems that we experience here, we then think, actually the most Supreme doesn't have these problems in a personal relationship, so therefore impersonal must be divine. Gurudev was saying that. But actually, a natural position, the Brahma Sutra say this, our natural position is one of bliss, of pleasure, of activity. That's our true nature, of relationship, of love, of connecting. This is simply a reverse of a mirrored banyan tree of the Supreme World. And therefore the real relationship, real love, real unconditional service, unconditional protection, unconditional backing, support, love, contentment, companionship, That can only come from the Supreme. Janmadi asya yata, everything has the source in the Supreme. It's repeated, it's the first verse in Bhagavatam, it's repeated in Brahma Sutra. Janmadi asya yata, everything comes from the Supreme Lord. We have personality, we have an individuality, we have uniqueness, we have a want to desire to, want a connectedness. The Lord also has that. It's from the Lord. But, as another thing my Gurudev said once, one time my wife asked, it was a Govinda's lecture on relationships and how they spurn us. And she asked, all this stuff that I have, love and all these things that I get in relationships, that's just the element of Krishna, right? Gurudev responded back, you want your own pastimes and your own devotees. That is the inherent problem. We want our own pastimes, we want our own devotees, we want our own circle, we want our own Goloka Vrindavan. But actually, in wanting one and we've all of a sudden realized how painful it is, how soul destroying it is, how separate we actually feel from the Supreme Reality. And because we're separate from the Supreme Reality, we're also separate from each other. There's no connection out there. There's no real wanting to understand and support. Everyone's just trying to make it. Today, you'll see protests in the street for the teachers because the teachers they feel like they haven't been supported. They have the election on, and the biggest talking point of the election is the cost of living crisis. Because people don't feel supported. They feel everything around them is collapsing. They're trying very hard. All of these Adi Devic problems are coming by force. They've been dealing with Adi Atmik and Adi Bautik, and all of a sudden the Adi Devic is coming crashing down. And they feel, we need support, we need help. Someone help us. Government help us. So this personal conception of the Supreme Lord is so important in our philosophy, in our lineage. Relationship, contentedness, love, like I said, support, they're found in the divine, in this personal conception. Actually, that's, in terms of people who come to our Western outreach programs in Kirtan, Sydney, we see that this is one of the places which seems to be a barrier. They appreciate all the chanting and they appreciate the prasadam and the friendships, and then it's just that one line between impersonal and personal idea of a Supreme Lord. But in the Sri Sampradaya, there's a great point that is made about learning to appreciate the personal form through the Archa Vigraha. Says that the Lord in the Paravyoma, in the spiritual sky, is like the water above the clouds. We can see that, we understand that it's up there, but we don't really see it. We don't see the Lord in His spiritual world. He's water in the clouds. And then there's the Lord in the heart, Antaryami, the Lord in the heart. It's like water beneath the ground, like an aquifer or something like that. We don't see that. We know it's there. There's sources that we can see and exist in by inference, but underneath the ground, so we can't appreciate that so much. But the Archa Vigraha, that's like a glass of water in front of you. You can take it and drink it and appreciate straight away. Rasaham apsikontaya. So this personal conception of the divine, that this whole program that we have here in the morning, our chanting through to Srimad Bhagavatam, and then thereon, beyond the day, all our services, that is to appreciate the personal conception of the divine. All of us need a bit of walking towards that conception, but we know from this pastime the Lord will walk towards us as well. The Lord will appear to those people who are honest, honestly trying to understand and learn about Him and serve Him, even though they don't know, they haven't seen Him. Think of how the Lord appreciates that, actually. Think of, I mean, we're already in this position, so we might as well reflect on it. But think if someone doesn't know who you are, and then you learn they're doing so much service, they're doing so many things for me, they're chanting my name, they're trying to learn me, they're trying to serve someone who's very close to me, the spiritual mind, they're serving him so nicely, they're serving my dog nicely. It's a very nice person. They don't even know, I haven't met them, I haven't actually seen, how nice. Think of how the Lord feels when we're trying so honestly to serve Him. This pastime, we also see that there's personality. I mean, in terms of when Prabhupada speaks about the Lord, he doesn't just say God. He says the supreme personality of Godhead. Supreme personality of Godhead. And also, the Vishnu Tattvas, he says personalities of Godhead. Personality. So yes, person, personal conception, but also all of the things that come with the person. Their characteristics, the way they walk, the way they talk, how they interact with people, their style. I mean, the Lord here, He's got a style. The Vishnu has big hips, very curving features, beautiful, exquisite ornaments. Makara Kundala, he has the earrings, and he has the bees humming around him, the Vaijayanti garland. He has his associates. He speaks in a certain way. Very personal. He deals personally, and he has his own style, he has his own way of speaking, he has all of that. But we don't want to give the Lord that. We think the Lord should be like this. Should be how I consider the Lord should be, like very... The Lord should be like the judge in the court. No one should speak, and everyone should be like, yes, judge, and bow down. And if they don't bow down when they leave the courtroom, never allowed in my court again. No, the Lord has His own personal features, His own uniqueness, own way of speaking, and own way of interacting. I mean, earlier, last week I spoke about the exchange between the Lord and Lakshmi and the doorman. There's another exchange, very funny exchange actually, and it's given in the Chandogya Upanishad, is a scholar or a jnani. He actually learns about Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, and he's been told to worship this deity. And so he begins worshipping this deity and giving all of the heart to the deity, but the Lord never appears to him. And that's all he wants. He just wants the Lord to appear to him. He's just wanting this, I want the Lord, but actually he's been serving and saying, at the same time he's been saying, I need this, I need that, I need this. The Lord hasn't appeared, and so he puts it to one side. Puts the idol to one side, and he gets a Ganesh deity. Because the Ganesh should remove all my obstacles, and so he starts doing the fire sacrifice for Lord Ganesha. And then he's doing the fire sacrifice one day and chanting all the mantras very purposefully, and then he opens his eyes and he sees the smoke. It's flowing all the way to one corner where the Vishnu deity is, and it's going in his nose. And he goes, that smoke's not meant for Vishnu. It's meant for... He gets up and he goes with buds and he blocks the nose of Lord Vishnu. He blocks it completely. No. And he goes back and sits down and he opens his eyes and Lord Vishnu's there. And he's completely bewildered. Oh, my dear Lord. Wow, you've appeared. But why? I thought you weren't taking any of... And he says, no, because you actually finally understood my personal conception. You understood that I was actually there taking in the smoke, and you went and gave me personal service by blocking the nose. I appeared before you. See, that's the style of Vishnu. That's the character of Lord Vishnu. He speaks in a certain way. And we'll see further on how he speaks in doublespeak. How he praises his devotees in Jai and Vijay. He praises them. And actually the direct translation is he's saying, oh, they've committed a mistake. But actually he's saying, no, they're such great devotees. That's the Lord. That's the supreme Lord. He's so sweet. And in the previous verse, there was the mention of Ashtabhoge. Ashtabhoge, the 8 opulence, 8 perfections. And Prabhupada goes down in the long purport. He hammers down on the siddhi element of the Ashtabhoge. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there's actually 8 conceptions or eight qualities of the Lord, separate from the siddhis. He says the devotees experience 7 items: his sweet voice, which is sound, his softness, touch, his beauty in the form, his sweetness, which is taste, his fragrance, which is smell, his affection, mercy, his pastimes, action, and by the 6 senses in the form of prema. The 8th item is Aishvarya, which is all the opulences of the divine. And they are experienced by devotees. And those who experience it are liberated. And actually that person who blocked the nose of Vishnu, he got liberation. He got to go to Vaikuntha. So these elements, these sweetness, and particularly his sweetness, that's the element that's being repeatedly honed into in these section of verses, is the Lord's sweetness of him appearing at this and protecting his devotees and being there, and also at the same time 5 birds, 1 stone. Lord Vishnu takes care of the Kumaras who want to know more about him, all of the Vaikuntha-vasis who are watching this happen and really taking it all in, and really singing the glories of the Lord, seeing this interaction. Oh wow, see how the Lord did this. They're also being satisfied. Lakshmi, who's next to him, seeing the Lord and becoming very, very happy with how the Lord's dealing with all of his devotees, is also satisfied. Everyone is satisfied. And the Lord, what does he need to do? Just himself. His own personality, his own self. He's so sweet. The Lord is so sweet. And all we have to do is we have to hear about him. Yamunacharya sings such a nice, in the Madhurastakam, if I can sing. Adaram maduram, vadanam maduram, nayanam maduram, hasitam maduram, hridayam maduram, gamanam maduram, maduradipatir akilam maduram. Your lips are sweet and charming, your face is sweet and charming, your eyes are sweet and charming, and your laughter is sweet and charming. Oh Krishna, your heart is sweet and charming, and your walking is sweet and charming. Everything about you is sweet and charming, O Lord of sweetness, Madhura. The Lord is so sweet to his devotee, and that's the beauty of the personal conception of the Lord. And when we engage in this personal conception and we engage in this activity, actually, naturally, everything becomes beautiful around that conception. We can see in this personal practice of engaging with the divine how our relationships with everyone else actually improves. Because we're no longer thinking of people as, they're there to serve me, they're there to scratch my back, she is there to cook my meals for me and clean the house and take care of our children. No longer. That doesn't occur anymore, because actually our root element, our root connection is with the Supreme Personal Divine. And therefore all our relationships take that color. I'll treat this person very nicely, they're an individual, they're going through their own situations, I'll support them, I'll connect with them. I won't offend them, because they're very dear to me and dear to the Supreme Lord. So how can we get closer to this personal conception? Going back to this disciplic succession point, cutting a circle. Actually, the Shrut Ikshita Pada, that definition that's provided in Bhagavatam, he says one who listens and sees listening, the Lord comes and sits within the heart. And in Adi 311, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada provides a different definition of Shrut Ikshita Pada. He says actually one who performs devotional service, the Lord comes and sits within their heart. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because when you hear about the Lord, when you hear about his qualities, when you hear from a source, from a Tattvadarshi, when you hear from them and you serve that person, you learn more. Naturally we perform devotional service for the Lord. And naturally we get to see the Lord. He manifests before those who perform that devotional service for him. So this opportunity that we have is, the Devas want to be born in this time. They want to be born in this Kali Yuga. They want to be born in this time where Lord Chaitanya's devotional service, this Harinam Sankirtan movement is taking charge. We are so lucky. And by this process we can go deeper into our practice, and we pray that one day, through the service, honest and kind and purposeful service of the Guru Varga and devotees, the Lord will manifest in our heart. Hare Krishna. I'll take any questions and comments. Yes, Prabhu.
Is this the deliberate design of the Lord that the first realization of the Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal Brahman? Is this the characteristic of, say, Patanjali Yoga followers? Or even the devotees as per the Isopanishad which Prabhupada mentioned? And did Narada have similar experience as the son of Mesa?
Yes, naturally, the impersonal conception is when one is attempting to learn about the Supreme. The impersonal conception seems to be the first, and it's also mentioned in terms of Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan iti shabdate. It's also the first mentioned in the conception. And actually, there's prayers, like in the Ishopanishad, the prayers to remove the effulgence of the Lord's face so they can see the Lord. So naturally that effulgence is the first, and it's actually, it exists for a purpose, that effulgence, because the Lord's pastimes are sweet, and the Lord's pastimes are confidential, raha. Is there any guham, but there's also the intimate pastimes. And so that effulgence is actually a little protection for that. And only the most devoted and the one who wants to learn about that can enter into the pastimes. And actually, if you see, we can actually see that in our conception, in the natural way in which we speak about things in this material world. People say the universe, people say God. Even in the major religions, when they say, Christ, my Gurudev was saying the other day, he was saying they say Jesus, and they pray to Jesus, but he's the Son of God, and when they speak of God, they don't really speak about a person, they speak about the universe. So yes, that impersonal conception is very much at the foremost.
And secondly, after seeing the beautiful form of the Lord and smelling the tulsi from the Lord's toes, becoming completely satisfied, why did they not take back the curse they pronounced to the gatekeepers?
Why did they not take back the curse that they pronounced to the gatekeepers? Does anyone want to? I don't want to speculate. Brahmanas. They're Brahmanas. So when Brahmana speaks, because remember we said that one of the foremost qualities of Brahmana is honesty. They stick to their word, what they're saying.
They can only offer the remedy at the end, but just another little thing. Was there no deity worship in the era of the Kumaras?
There's no deity worship in the era of the Kumaras. It's Satya Yuga, when they go see the Lord. And the Yuga Dharma at that point was meditation on the divine. But there is no reason to say that they wouldn't have been deity worship at that point. Why ask, Prabhu? What's the, yeah?
We actually consider Radha Gopinath as personally present here.
Yes.
So they could have that realization as well in that Yuga. Right? Looking at the Lord personally,
Yeah.
is something personally different. We also consider Radha Gopinath as present here. So
Yeah. But it's got to do with they're Mahajans. The Kumaras are Mahajans. They obviously take on from what they hear from Lord Brahma, but they're also in their own sampradaya, the Kumara sampradaya, from what they heard from Lord Hamsa. But there was a level of intelligence that they had at the point of hearing from Lord Brahma, and that you can actually see a comparison, because Lord Brahma, he only hears 4 verses, the bija, chatur sloki, the bijas, and so he hears those 4 and he can completely already understand that's a personal conception, and that's his teachings to his disciples. But the Kumaras, when they heard that, they didn't appreciate that, because they didn't have that full conception. They didn't have that intelligence. But it doesn't mean that the teachings of Lord Brahma failed, because it came back. It all came flooding back as soon as they saw the Supreme Lord. Any more curly ones, Prabhu? Any other comments? Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the devotees. Hare Krishna. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Budare Shrimati Devati Samantarani Chavra Dakshmi Shabhakti Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.